right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I wanted to do an Olympia prediction video, but in this video I wanted to do like an Olympia wildcard video. These are the guys that nobody's really talking about as much, but these are the guys that I think could really make a serious impression at this year's Mr. Olympia, especially considering the fact that, again, no one's talking about them, and I think these guys have really impressive physiques. So these are guys that, again, nobody's talking about, but I think have potential to be top 10 or better guys at this year's Mr. Olympia. So the first guy I want to talk about here is Chol Lee. So he qualified for the Olympia by winning the Monsters M Pro over there in South Korea. And he's been posting some physique updates lately that have really caught my attention. He's got a really impressive physique. He posted these. These are the most recent physique updates that he posted on his story here. And this is one of the guys that I really feel like is going to shock a lot of people at this year's Mr. Olympia because, again, this is a guy really I haven't seen anybody talking about, especially a lot of the commentators that are based in the U.S. I haven't really seen anybody mention this guy. But, again, the Monsters M Pro, it was a show where it was kind of held in secrecy because the government, I guess, didn't really want it to happen because, obviously, the virus and stuff. So no one really talked about that show. And as a result, nobody really talked about Chol Lee because it was a really small lineup. I think there was like 5 guys in the whole show, and nobody was really talking about him qualifying for the Olympia at that show because, again, no one was talking about the show. But looking at these physique updates, and again, we're sitting at about 4 weeks out right now, he's got a really impressive physique. He's got a pretty good amount of size to him, but in addition to that size, he's got a really good structure. If you look at, let's go away from these stories for a minute and go over and look at a video that he posted on his page where he hits a front double bicep. So if you look at his front double bicep, you can really see what I'm talking about here. He's got a really significant amount of size, really big arms, wide flaring lats, V-taper, but he's got really good structure. I mean, for the size that he carries, he's got a really good shape to him, and I think he's going to draw a lot of eyes on stage. And based on what we saw from the Monsters M Pro, I'm going to throw up a picture for you guys here, a couple pictures. He brought pretty decent conditioning to that show. Now, full transparency, I'm not crazy familiar with him as a bodybuilder. I haven't seen other shows that he's done. But based on the physique updates that he's posted and the package that he brought to the Monsters M Pro, I think he could be really impressive at this year's Mr. Olympia and land a really impressive placing. Like a top 10 placing for him, I think would be a tremendous accomplishment. And I think he's a guy that really would compare very favorably. His physique really reminds me kind of like a Rafael Brandao type of physique, just a Korean version. And again, keep in mind here, this lineup is thinning out more and more as we get closer to the show. Again, we're about 4 weeks out. There's about 22 total qualified competitors for this year's Mr. Olympia so far. And of those 22, we've now subtracted 5. 5 bodybuilders have dropped out so far. And in the remaining, 17 left? A lot of those are international guys that might not be able to get to the Olympia based on travel restrictions because who knows, how things are going to change. There's states shutting down again. There's a lot more things going on. Lockdowns look like they're starting to happen again in other countries. So who knows who's going to be able to get here. So of those 17, maybe even more of those will drop out by the time the Olympia gets there. And these guys, well, hell, for all I know, Chol Lee might not be able to get there. But based on the updates he's been posting, he's still prepping for it and he's still planning on competing. But he's really a guy that's impressed me a lot. No one's really talking about him, but I think he's got he's really complete. He's got a really good structure, really good shape, like I said, and the conditioning that he brought to that Korea show was really good. The Monsters M show in Korea, it was pretty good, considering that it was kind of a last-minute show for a lot of people. They didn't know if it was going to happen or not. And I think really he's going to make a pretty big statement at this year's Mr. Olympia. I think he's really, seriously, top 10 potential at the Olympia. I think he would need to be a little bit sharper than he was in Korea, but I guess we'll see what kind of package he brings if he is able to make it to the Olympia stage. And now I think this will make a really good segue here. A word from our sponsors at Labrada Nutrition. There will be a link in the description box below if you want to visit their website. Without further ado, here is Labrada Nutrition. So wasn't that a good segue there? Because the next guy that I want to talk about, and this is completely unrelated to the sponsorship, but Hunter Labrada. Hunter Labrada, this is going to be his Olympia debut. So he's an Olympia rookie. As a rookie, he won his Olympia qualification at the Tampa Pro. So he turned pro, his first pro show ever, won it, and it was an Olympia qualifier, and he went straight to the Olympia. So one show as a pro, straight to the Olympia. And Hunter is a guy that I honestly believe not only is top 10 potential, top 10 material, I think Hunter realistically could be top 6 at his first Mr. Olympia ever. I mean, for a rookie at the Olympia, Hunter is extremely complete. He's got every bit of size to hang with any other pro bodybuilder on that stage, maybe aside from Big Ramy. He proved that by winning the Tampa Pro because he was compared against other pros. I think he weighs like in the 260s in these pictures. He's probably 250 something, mid to high 250s on stage. So he's got every bit of size to hang with these guys, but he's extremely complete. I mean, it's hard to point out really a weak point for Hunter. And I think it's really going to come down to conditioning for him, because if you look at his physique, especially in this latest physique update at 4 weeks out, he's really complete. His arms are really good. His legs are really good. He's got good calves. I think the weak point that a lot of people bring up, they might say his back. His back could use a little bit more density, I guess, maybe a little bit more detail. But in these pictures, he's already got a borderline Christmas tree there at 4 weeks out. So maybe his back could use a little bit of improvement, but he's really complete for a rookie at the Olympia. And I think he's really going to be the guy that I've got my eye on for the biggest wild card of the Olympia this year, as far as top 10 placing at his first Olympia ever. Honestly, possible top 6. And I mean that. Because not only does he have the size, but he's got a pretty aesthetic physique for a bigger guy. Again, his dad is Lee Labrada. His posing, the routine that he did at the Tampa Pro was extremely good. His posing is on point, which is going to be something that gives him an edge over even these experienced bodybuilders in the Olympia lineup, because some of these guys still really don't have that good of posing. And he's got an aesthetic physique. He's got the size. He's got a little bit of a freak factor to him. If you go back to the most muscular pose in the very beginning of these photos, all that vascularity throughout the upper body and his chest, he's really going to draw eyes on stage. And I really think he is a potential top 6 guy. Don't be surprised if you see Hunter Labrada in the first call-out at the Olympia this year. Don't be shocked, because I think it's entirely possible. So definitely be on the lookout for Hunter when we watch the Olympia here in 4 weeks. We're all going to watch it together, the live stream. I really think that when you look at the names in this lineup and you look at Hunter's physique, he compares very favorably, at least in photos so far, to a lot of these guys. And I think when we actually see him on stage, because that was the big question with the Tampa Pro, is what's he going to look like on stage next to other guys? And he proved at the Tampa Pro that he can hang with all these pros that competed there. Ian Vaillant, for example, very big bodybuilder. And I think he's going to do very well. So the final guy that I think is going to be a wild card at this year's Mr. Olympia, and it's another guy who this is his first Mr. Olympia. He's been a pro for a while. He's been a pro since 2012, I believe. Antoine Vayant. So he's an Olympia rookie, but not necessarily a rookie in the sense of being a pro. He's been a pro for a while. He took a lot of time off. I believe he had a gap between 2013 and the 2018 Toronto Pro where he took 4th, where he didn't compete at all for like a 5-year span. Actually, I believe the last show that he did in 2013 was the Toronto Pro. So he went from the 2013 Toronto Pro to the 2018 Toronto Pro without competing. And Antoine is another guy. So his recent physique update, let's go ahead and look at Antoine's page here. His recent physique update, he looks very impressive. Obviously, he won the Cali Pro to qualify for the Olympia. So that's another thing I wanted to mention here is the guys that I'm looking at here are guys that qualified off of winning a show. I think qualifying on points is fine, but I think these guys that have not competed at the Olympia before, actually all these guys haven't. Chol Lee hasn't either. They've never competed at the Olympia before, and they're going into the Olympia off of a solid professional win. So they've already beat a lineup of other pros. And these are guys that all have very incredible physiques. And Antoine, the one that I was talking about here was his front double bicep. And also he posted an abs and thighs and a side chest in that same shot. So the thing with Antoine that has impressed me this year is his conditioning. He's got really good size to him. His legs are huge. But he's been bringing really good conditioning. In the physique updates that we've seen so far, he looks like he looks like one of the more conditioned guys at this point in the 4 weeks out mark of his prep. From what I've seen from everybody else, Antoine looks to be in extremely good shape, comparatively speaking. And he also just posted this posing video where you can almost see cross striations in his legs. His glutes are pretty much already striated. And again, 4 weeks out, he's in really good shape. And I think this is going to be an Olympia where conditioning is going to matter a lot. And like how I just mentioned, he has the size. He says he's 273. at 4 weeks out. Antoine is no small bodybuilder, and I think he's going to make a good impression. Again, I think Antoine could be a solid top 10 contender. Again, dependent on conditioning. He doesn't have the prettiest structure. I'll give him that. That's the only criticism I have for him. And by that, I just mean he maybe could fill out his upper body a little bit more. I think he's kind of lower body heavy because his legs are so good and so big. It almost creates an illusion that his upper body is maybe smaller than it is because his legs are so big. I do think he's lower body dominant. So those are my 3 picks for the biggest wild cards in the 2020 Mr. Olympia. Let me know in the comment section below who you guys think I missed. Who is the guy that you guys are looking at the competitor list? I'll throw it up on the screen here for you guys. If you're looking at this competitor list, who do you guys think is the biggest wild card in this list? Now, again, we know that if you're looking at this list, Rafael Brandao, he's out. Nathan Diasha, he's out. James Hollingshead, he's out, and I believe that is because of travel restrictions. Cedric McMillan, he is out because of an injury. And, of course, Flex Lewis is no longer on this list. And who is the other guy that's out? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's a 5 Flex. So those guys are out, but let me know on this list who you guys think is a wild card. Comment that in the comment section below. As always, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you have not subscribed already. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, Nick Strength and Power signing out.